Hello, welcome back to ESA Cup. We're here with a promotion game. We get to find out one more team joining us in the next stage, escaping the Swiss. The loser has that 2-2 bracket, that final lifeline, the last chance to qualify out. I'm Golimolu. I'm going to be joined this evening by Delta Bacon, as we are here to break down Nexus versus Entropy, a game that I think there's a little bit of anticipation for.
A little bit of anticipation, a little bit of trepidation as well. Both teams, they're a little bit well known in the community. Both German teams are both pretty fanatical about beating each other every which way they can. Both of these teams, they're coming through the tournament, as you can see there in the 2-1 bracket. Both of them coming through the 1-1 section of that. So both of them, they've had a bit of a shaky run so far in Swiss, it's fair to say, Golu.
Yeah, it's been a little awkward, right? I mean, you look at a team like Nexus, they've had a couple close games. Their opponent in round two, the name escapes me, but they qualified straight through 3-0, right? So you look at their only loss being as a team that sailed all the way through to our playoffs already. Obviously, they want to join them. Obviously, they will try and make it there. And same goes for Entropy, right? Like you just don't want to get stuck down beforehand, right? Going 2-2, look, they're best of threes. So you're looking at it and you go, okay, the quality of team in theory is higher here than it would be in that 2-2 bracket. You're playing against teams that are coming from that bottom who are keeping themselves on that last lifeline. But it's still not ideal, and just trying to close things out here. What is interesting, Delta Bacon, we were given a little bit of privy information. These two teams have played quite recently in RxCS, and Nexus came out on top.
Yeah, absolutely, and that but the thing is that it wasn't a sweep or nothing like that. It was an extraordinarily close game, which is kind of the thing that we really want. We've seen a couple of games over these last few
Yeah.
weeks. There's been a couple of forfeitures as teams collapse over the natural course of the league, and we've had a couple of absolute sweeps. Team Satility or Team 27, as they were known back in week one, falling 7-0, 7-0 to Molotov Gang springs to mind. But here, two teams super evenly matched and everything to play for. It's not quite got you know the stakes, I suppose, of a knockout match. This isn't last chance saloon for either
Yeah.
team, but both of them are absolutely going to want to go for this hammer and tongue.
Yeah, and at this point it is your second chance, right? So a little more convincing, but we'll have to see how it goes as we're gonna find out what maps we'll be playing on this afternoon. We want to jump to the veto.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. We saw actually so far in the league, Entropy, they've lost labs both times that they picked it. So it wasn't a surprise really to see them prioritize removing that before it even had a chance of being picked. Clearly a map that they've scrimmed and they feel confident on, but that they've lost just too many times for them to say, let's go back a third time. Opting instead to ban out and go straight for consulate Golo.
Yeah, I'm a big consulate enjoyer. Really happy that we're getting to see this come through. Nexus teased us with it last time around, being that decider in their last matchup. So immediately it's Entropy bringing it forward. And when a team picks into it, that's when you know it's going to be a real exciting one, right? And early off, both of these teams happy to play it. I'm very excited. We jump to our second map though. Nexus going with another one of the less common map picks. It's going to be that skyscraper coming out for our second map. Again, another one of these maps that you don't see super frequently. So teams being well prepared to play them and come forward with a dense amount of strats that they're ready to bring forwards. Always going to be super important. And that decider of bank should be reach it, a very open, very hectic map. But you need to have that structure to not let people slip through your net as you're casting it out, right? A lot of opportunities for flanks and for both the attack and the defense to get very aggressive and really try and make around theirs. And that's sort of exciting siege that we always love to be able to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I know for myself, skyscraper, it's always a permanent ban in my book. I listen, it's one of those Marmite maps, isn't it? Either you love it or you hate it, really.
Yes, yeah.
Skyscraper, both teams have picked it once so far in the competition. Obviously, that's been added to now by Nexus, and they've both won it on the occasions that they've picked it. So neither team really weak on Skyscraper.
I'm looking forward to it, right? It's a guarantee. This is a best of 3, so you need 2 maps to win. We're starting out on Consulate, Skyscraper number 2, and if a team can't close it out 2-0, and between Nexus and Entropy, I think I'm expecting that third map bank to have to split the difference. But we jump on in immediately. Nexus want to take away that Blackbeard. The strong operator, right? You get that shield, you still get access to the Scar. I mean, maybe you run the DMR, but I don't think that's super likely to be brought out when you have an assault rifle as your alternative.
I'm not that surprised by that, Blackbeard's basically an ever-present ban so far in the league. Blitz being banned as well, shield operators. The shield meta, despite the nerfs, still very much in effect. And these teams, none of them particularly enjoy playing against shields. Particularly, you know, as we saw last season, just when Blackbeard first started getting used in his new configuration, he was used to devastating effect during the knockout phase of Season 9. So these teams are still very wary of it going through the Season 10.
Mirror, pretty standard, I think, for Consulate as well, right? There's a couple of these sites where having those windows that you can lay down, close off. Some of those longer angles of control. You think to the basement, you get to basically shut out that breach as an option, unless you're willing to commit smokes, or you can get like a Kali Lance, or more likely an Ash breaching round into it. Turn it off, crack it out, and then you get that safe access. But definitely going to be an interesting one to see how they deal with. Nexus getting to start on the defense. That is a massive advantage, even if you do lose access to those Black Eyes. It still means you have the Legion, who they're immediately locking onto. That's back with Ishak on it. You also have the Azami and the Fenrir, should you want to bring them. Fenrir in the lineup for round number 1, but not the Azami. Down in the basement, I feel like it's less necessary, although you will see a lot of teams still bring it as a way to try and limit the angles that can be brought, especially from outside of this main breach.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of ways you can really attack this site, isn't there, Golu? I mean, I think a lot of teams, they play a very breach-focused meta as this map went through its new configuration last year. But then as times crept steadily forwards, we've actually seen teams play a lot more expansively, playing on attacks based on the hatches, based around that vert control, and then also either coming down through servers, through that quick breach, or down the spiral staircase, or through yellow. There's a variety of ways to actually attack this objective, and the whole beauty of it is that if you commit too much to one and it gets stopped outright, you've got 3 or 4 options to still actually get to the objective, get in, get your kill in, get out again.
And it also means it's super important to be able to be flexible, right? If you start off on one approach and then get figured out, being able to next time around, right? Okay, we lost this round, we can change it up, we can go for the other side of the map completely, bring a very different lineup, and try and counter our opponent. Really, really important. On a map that is so defender-sided, getting those attacker wins is really, really impactful at pushing you forward. But Blacklist already making an early entry, and Solid's going to walk out into him. Brown down for the count already, not expecting that quick rappel on through.
Yeah, that was really big, important pick to pick up early if you're Entropy. Pick up those roamers, because these are the ones that are going to be denying the time as more roaming coming out from Nexus. They'll get away freely that time, do a little bit of damage, but they'll occupy time more than anything else, and that's absolutely key on this very vertical focused take that they're going for here.
And super shorty at the bottom of the staircase. It's being scanned out by the Deimos, who has to back away and respecting it quite heavily underneath a solid floor, so it can't be caught out on verticals. Backing down to the staircase, still looking for an angle down, but it's not going to quite give up this Legion just yet. Still, like you mentioned, that time ticking away, and now that the scan's over, going to retake this position at the bottom of the staircase, might even pull up the super shorty as well. Bricks on yellow too. So trying to hold these tight angles where they can, challenging a little bit, wants to retake space upstairs, and with an Amos respecting a little bit of space, and Nade bouncing down, you are going to have to finally surrender.
Yeah, but there's a lot of the round gone already, and they're not really near to getting that vert. They're still engaging these roamers up on top, up on the mid floor, and there goes Rixie as Navu takes them off the board.
So difficult to get onto this middle floor, and again, it's not the middle floor you're attacking, it's down into the basement. Finally opening up this hatch inside of Staff to try and drop down into Visa. wants to walk through the corridor. Again, the Jackal pings giving more and more information on these roamers, but the retake from Legion creeping up above as all the attackers come down below could be a massive blunder. Blacklist able to get one, looking for a second as Ryzen also hunting down their next target, but it's Trixim getting aggressive on yellow to take away that comfortable position to try and walk into the bomb site. Stuck with a goo inside, gets spotted out, but the Legion backs away at the last second. Soxon super shorty, trying to take the tight angle, but you keep escaping to the next layer of defense using the cover to your advantage. Caught out taking a peek towards the head holes, but quickly falling back. Ishak gets the reinforcement kill. Still a 1 versus 2. Information on Spiral Stairs, but only 15 seconds. Diffuser in hands of the attack, but they're coming down Spiral Staircase. This is away from where you need to plant that bomb, and there's only 6 seconds to get in. Walks past the Legion, should give their position away. Prides out the Twitch, but you've got to stick the plant now. The timer's about to hit red. You pre-fire onto the doorway in security, but of course you're not going to challenge when the timer's at 0-0-1.
As time ticks steadily away, Golu, as you were pointing out there, it becomes a 6th defender. And although they were falling every which way up on the top floor early, bankers dropped early. Although they were falling every which way on the 2nd floor, as they were collapsing in incredibly shakily, it falls down to Isak on the Legion, who pulls it all together at the end, plays it very maturely, doesn't take engagements that they can't win, has the sense to pull back, retreat back, hide in a way, and then just pick the battles that he needs to, wins that 1v1 versus the Jackal, and then can hide away until the timer ticks down. The 6th defender comes up clutch. Very well played from Nexus.
And again, I think it is just all about that clock, right? There wasn't that willingness to take a gunfight on the middle floor. Nexus given a lot of time to sit back, relax, and in fairness to them, they did a good job, especially looking at players like Ishak or Trixie, right? Who were willing to be a little aggressive. They're taking a couple pre-fires out. They're trying to dissuade Entropy Gaming from feeling comfortable to walk forwards. Deimos had that control over by admin staircase for so long, but that constant pressure, baiting out the scans, very happy to sit back and wait out the timer, but Deimos didn't want to walk down the staircase when you had that relative safety. That's what gives these windows of opportunity to the defense to just sit back. You wait out 30 seconds, and then you walk forwards again, and no work has been accomplished. No space has been gained.
Yeah, I thought it was a really positive first minute coming out from Entropy Gaming as they completed what, their kind of attack side prep nice and quickly. But from there, they kind of did nothing with it. And you can't just pat yourselves on the back after a minute and say, look where we are now, guys. We're halfway through a roam clear. This is fantastic. You've got to keep pressing that advantage as it goes. I thought Nexus were a bit off balance, actually, after that first minute. But then you gave them time to recuperate, to recover. And Entropy, once they'd given them that time, it just meant Nexus knew exactly where they were, and they could go and harass them and harangue them at will.
Again, a lot of waiting. Burning the utility on this main window. They have the Amaru, so very clearly want to line themselves in to fly through, but there's another canister that they have to catch, and again, with its positioning, very hard to get from that window. It's going to be the defense. No, never mind. They can get upside down and spot onto it. So, utility not hidden well enough by Nexus means that it's all going to be gone when you want it for that plant denial. Jumping in below, again, to look for any players tucked around the desk or on the side of the bookshelf. You want to rip open this floor and give as much space to the Amaru as possible, but there's still fire laid down and met with a toxic grenade as well. Immediately Blacklist at 1 HP and loses the gunfight on the vertical because that hatch being watched. It's not even a hatch, it's on vert that's been opened up below. Bassi has to now go and retake this ground because, again, you need to be able to deny Ishak here vaulted up on the desk. You want to go with the Gara hook, the flashbangs being sent through. You got 2 players focused down below when there's no way to find the contention. Ishak's gonna fly through the window, immediately get gunned down. It gives him the information that he's here on the desk, but he's doing a great job to evade the angles. And still tucks in for his life, escapes past the Nomad as well as the floor below him is blown to pieces.
That's very nicely paired from Isak. Plays their life, manages to escape, occupies a ton of time, denies the plant. Can't say better than that with 40 seconds left on the clock. Entropy Gaming still yet to realistically get a person inside the building being held. They've committed so hard to this kind of attack that now, where it comes from the yellow stairs, it's probably too little too late. All you've got is Rags, the Nomad, stood atop the building, 20 seconds on the clock, and you've not even got the hand on the bomb, Gulu. Round done.
Yeah, tried to drop down the skylight at the last second, hunt down some frags, but it all went wrong when they didn't catch Ishak on that cross. They let the Goyo get back onto the desk. They tried to cover hook in. But again, you have a Nomad on that window. You should really be relaying the information.
Yeah.
There's still fire on the ground. There's no need for us to jump in before that 20 seconds of fire has ended. You're going to take 3 damage. If that's not there, you go in, the Toxic Babes pop, you jump out again, you complete that objective of going Gara Hook use for 1 Toxic Babe. That is the rotation you're looking to do when pulling off this kind of execute. I hate this execute, Delta Bacon. I absolutely hate it. I think it sucks. And you know why? Because what are you doing? Everyone else is sat on a window waiting for your Amaru to make something happen. And the moment it goes wrong, you have nothing to show for the 2 minutes spent in the round. I want to see teams, if you're going for this approach, add a bit of spiral stairs pressure. Try and bait out the defense a little bit more. Get open the single wall into theater as well, so that you still have these other options. When push comes to shove, all the defense are going to be so focused on that Amaru because they know that's where the diffuser is. You can have your side players start to wrap in and put just a little bit extra pressure on. It was so one-dimensional. Nexus just sat back. They put their legs up, they relaxed, have a cup of tea. Zero concern.
It's indicative of poor droning, to be honest with you. I mean, you've indicated that obviously, you know, it's poor strategizing. And to be honest with you, I'm really not a fan of it myself. I thought very one-dimensional. You can't really do anything with that operator selection after you're forced to rotate around. And with droning, you're going to see that they've got a Goyo, you're going to see that they've brought the smoke, and you're going to see that that jump in, it's prepped. You're not getting in there. But they committed to it. It didn't work well for them. Round over. 2-0 Nexus. Moving on now to round 3. We go into yet another site. And Entropy, it feels like they haven't really started the game, Golu. They've come in. They've, logged on, picked the characters, done all their pre-match shenanigans. But they're still yet to actually click go. There's nothing to it at the moment. And I'm feeling like this attack, it's a little lackluster at best, unfortunately.
It can take time for teams to find their footing in a game, right? They just need 1 round to go in their favor, but with Ishak already getting an entry kill and Browns meeting Vasi at the rotation, he jumps into the breach, immediately gets bonneted by the shotgun. You're now looking at a 3 versus 5 where you have to make something happen, takes a bold step to hold this angle aggressively looking into theater and starts to walk on forwards, head height hold to challenge you. You've also got the bandit topped on Printer as well. His footsteps so far able to creep up and get a decent position, waiting for someone to try and challenge. Again, limits the angles as flashbangs fly over your shoulder, but Ishak makes it a double kill for himself in the round so far, still challenging with the logic bomb going off, but this gives Ash's position away behind the table. Malusi wants to bait on in, but an excellent pre-fire by Rice, who looks away at just the wrong time and lets Ishak slip back to the next layer of safety. Still pressure coming in from Spiral Staircase, but afraid of a flank coming up. And again, gives Ishak a window to fall away. Nexus, they get their 3 kills, they lose 1 in exchange, but now they drop, and there's only 54 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, they've lost their flank watch, they've lost their execute, but they're starting to pick it back up. Alphadon, Rise, picking off Isak and Mangus. Now it's down to actually taking the site. You've got vert control, and you have 2 operators which can, enable that vert, but you're also playing against 2 very wily players who know how to control the game. Trixie and Chapkin, they're not going to be playing in the site. They're not going to be playing where you maybe expect them. They're going to sit off. They're not going to let you exploit that vert, and you've only got 20 seconds. You have diffuser, but you need to get down there, guys. What are you doing? You've got 10 seconds left. You need to get to site. You need to get the plant down now. Once you're planting, you're locked in. You can't move. Here's the plant, Golu.
Going down, they shoot the yokai, and the second one doesn't land. Plant is still committed. The timer's gone red. You've got to protect the swing from the side, but you can't do it. Trixie walks on up, finds the Ash, providing the cover. That yokai blast, giving them that all-important time to force the Ram to have to stay in the planting animation.
These last 2 rounds in my notes here, Golu, I've got too little, too late written down under Entropy, and I think it's too little too late. They're losing to the timer, they're losing to these wide roam games, and once again I feel like it's indicative of poor droning. If you're droning better, you don't lose 2 players on your first entry to the map. You don't lose 2 players in the first minute reaching into the building. You just don't. But there we go. It's Entropy's problem to fix, and us just to muse over. Going back down to the basement now. So we are back to where Nexus won on time in that. What I think what was closest round so far in this match, the one where Isak played it very, very well back on the Legion.
Yeah, it came down to that 1 versus 2, right? Where they were Jackal and Twitch tag teaming down Spiral Staircase, but they couldn't get that clock working for them. Jackal slips past, can't go for the plant, you lose to Twitch. Becomes a difficult round to try and close on out. And I think this time, for me, I just want to see them challenge a gunfight on that middle floor. They got up into admin very, very well. They killed the Solace if we cast our mind back. But it was then moving down below, trying to clear out this middle floor roam that they ran into, well, too many roadblocks.
It's a different lineup they've picked out here. They've got different players playing on their vertical. They're not quite playing the same lineup. They've got Afladon playing on the Jackal this time, but here we've got Blacklist instead on the Ram. So maybe a little bit of what do you call it, mid-round shenanigans as they try to have different playstyles, throw these defenders off their game. Once again, we'll see in the first minute, Nexus dropping one of their roamers very, very early, but it's not on as wide a roam as we saw from Bankers last time.
Bankers now staying quiet. Logic Bomb gives his position away and just drops off. Happy to give up that space again. They've got a minute. They have lost the Warden. But everything else still going somewhat comfortably for them. Again, the Jackal scans coming through. No Deimos this time, just relying on, well, the Dokkaebi and the Jackal. So still 2 tools for the roam clear. A little bit more going in the way of the verticality this time with Blacklist picking up the Ram. Again, a slow middle portion of this round, though. Not much happening, as they're trying to clear out Piano, get information down there. But again, that's 2 boogies used up on this top floor. That's 2 that can't be used to rip the Piano floor, looking down into the garage, which is the actual bomb site.
Yeah, and they know where the bomb site is, Golo. They have to. All they're going to do is start driving roamers away, which is great if you're before the halfway. But oh, stop it. Nexus turning around on its head once again with 2 kills in quick succession, and those are the kind of plays, Golo. They suck the momentum out of an attacking side. Vasi, they'll pick one up, one to Chapkin. Now it's 3 versus 3, very even, but we've still got 2 entry players playing on this top floor. Make that one as Isak picks up Afla, just the Thermite and the Ram. Just the 2 of them yet to go, and they're still yet to really fully plant their control on this second floor.
And again, Ishak retaking above, so they're no longer safe. They're sandwiched between defenders in the basement, defenders on the second floor, and you just got to walk forwards. Vasi taking a little bit of chip damage, but it's given an opportunity for Blacklist to start working down the corridor. The default camera should be deactive, otherwise they're baying them out. Smoke's thrown down again, trying to lend that cover, lend that support. Solis tucked inside a yellow for the time being, staying silent. This Blacklist just having a difficulty hunting anyone, eventually just dies. MVX, who's found their way down inside the security after being hunted incredibly hard. Nice free fire for 1, but isn't good enough for the second. You don't get the chance at the third. Ishak closes that round down. And again, the defense, they get to move on. Again, just a little too slow on this attack.
Yeah, I mean, I would have maybe expected a little more from this Entropy team. I'm not too surprised to see the timeout coming there because, this Nexus side, it's a Nexus side that, admittedly beat Entropy in RSX the other day, but it was nowhere near this kind of, sweep. I don't think they saw 4-0 at all. They were going round for round, and it was incredibly competitive. Entropy, they're a strong team. They're an incredibly strong lineup, and they take matches the distance, even if they lose. But I feel like today they've just bumped into an Nexus side that's incredibly switched on. Not only in terms of their own fragging potential, we're seeing Entropy hit shots and, go frag for frag. But on the strategy side of it, it just feels very disjointed. And one thing Nexus are really good at doing here is they've got the wide roams. Their wide roams are occupying not only time, but also they're picking up frags. They're being very effective in that way, taking operators off the board. Now, the other side of it is Entropy, once they've had an operator or 2 taken off the board, there's no real plan B or plan C or plan Z if you're a Ferrari fan. There's none of it. It seems like there's plan A, and let's hope it works.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many bombs as they can.
Round 5 then, as we get to the end of that tactical timeout, one can only assume that Entropy have spent some good time having a little chat, little chinwag about what's going wrong. Hopefully they mentioned all of the aforementioned, but they were going to be attacking this top site once again. This is a round that they lost on frags. Nexus, they had a less of a wide roam in that round. Poor droning meant that the main plant, the jump-in plant, was unavailable, and this is where we really started to see Entropy struggling with their executes. No plan Bs or anything like that, Golu.
Yeah, they've changed that lineup quite significantly as well, right? Last time it was the Amaru, this time they've got the Ace. They've got the Sentry again as well, but last time it was Vasi bringing the hard breach charge and EMPs. This time it's frags and stuns, and it's Rixie picking it up. So showing that flexibility of Striker, right? You get to either play it very supportive, or as that entry, then really lean into the fact that you're going to use your utility early, and then try and take some gunfights with that M4. I think for Rixie, finding that kill is going to be a big confidence booster as well, because so far, unable to make a massive impact in this game, at least on that kill count leaderboard. A lot of drone information coming in around Solar, Solar Spiral, and that's going to help with, especially with this Rotero drone, to get in and start blowing up some of the utility that's being set up around this Nexus core.
Yeah, it shows that they're committing to more of a whole scale, you know, a free range attack, if you will, where it's not just going to be centered around one tiny little portion of the map. They're looking a little wider. I'm loving some of these defensive kill holes that have been made by Nexus, holding multiple angles, so they are. Here comes a couple of the utility out into that initial area, but still notably, no, not in the building. Not in the building, Golu, and not close to really challenging it either.
The big difference here is if they can start to collect kills on this side, they can really get the ball rolling and move very quickly to the rest of the top floor. But like you mentioned, you eventually have to commit to getting inside. Ash on printer window, Rixie, giving that drone information through, could actually go for a repel in here. It's all inside the small office that it's going to contest, but now with Vasi starting to make their way in as well, the defense peeling away, they want to get aggressive and see if they can catch anyone off, opening up the single wall. Does deny the retreat for Ishak, who's getting flashed out inside a small and should be able to be swung for a final frag as Rixie runs right past that pre-fire and collects the first.
Yeah, bang on 1 minute, and now they have established that eastern control, but now they've still got to go through a couple of rooms that Entropy have prepared quite well. It'll be good to see now if they do have Rise or someone moving over to the other side of the map and just pincering in on them, but that's not going to matter for Offloadung as they'll fall to Chapkin from a lovely little swing there.
Shotgun getting close as Bankers takes down Blacklist, not expecting that early aggression on the door frame. 4 versus 3, Nexus settling into control again as a second lines up for the death door.
Oh.
Vasi, you gotta know a little bit better than that. He's getting angsty though, so why not? Let's give him a third as they're gonna roll up on drop shot, gets to down to 1, follows it up with a re-peek afterwards. Oh dear, that's a triple on the door frame.
Do you know, it was Albert Einstein who suggested once, quite famously, that the definition of insanity was doing the same thing over and over, Golu, and expecting different results. 1 shotgun, 2 shotgun, 3 shotgun. Round 5 goes to Nexus. 5 in a row now for the defenders. Can they make it a clean sweep here, Golu?
Well, I mean, at this rate, probably, right? I mean, you're looking at how that plays out, and it's like, your teammate just died, let's walk right up onto it, like, no util or anything. Like, the first shotgun kill I'll give you, right? You don't expect them there. You think they're going to, especially because, you know, you think about how they were playing the extension when they were roaming above, and we saw Ash be able to sneak onto the metal table in the middle of theater and start applying a little bit of pressure onto Bandit on Printer and challenge Malusi on the connector wall. Just doesn't exist that time around. They're playing very far forward. And I think that's really been the biggest thing for me from Nexus showing, right? Their ability to fall off and try and take every advantage that they get. There's only 1 round in which they really messed it up, right? Which is that initial basement where rather than dropping down to middle floor, they tried to hide in bathroom, and both of them died. Otherwise, they've been pretty stellar with their discipline.
Yeah, I mean, that's something you can say about the Nexus side for all around, to be honest with you. Their discipline's been very solid, even when they have had a couple of little, falters or failings. They're disciplined. They know when to take a gunfight and when not to. Let's not forget, Golu, this is Entropy's map pick. They chose to bring us to Consulate, not Nexus. Entropy brought us here. And so far, they're being schooled on their map as Bankers here, lurking with the shotgun. Hasn't been drawn because the mute jammer is there. They don't know that Bankers is there. They're gonna line up like lemmings once again. No, they won't for Bankers. Not on that angle, but he'll run around. He'll pick up an SMG kill instead. Thank you very much. Entropy, they'll strike back with 2, but it's all kicking off as Ishak brings it back to a 3v3 with a lovely little C4 over onto Ritzy.
Opening up the wall into lobby now. He's going to force a rotation from Trixie, hiding on the other side of the wall. Behind the pillars. But still sitting patiently. The barrel of the gun might be a little close, but he's going to edge up and try and take a peek. Catches the ace up to the side. Bassi goes down. You've got another on the long angle from lobby, but no way to contest. Blacklist coming through into entrance. Again, looking for that pick back. Affler. Have to now reconsider where they want to go. Do they want to try and push towards Spiral? But of course, Trixie being aggressive there as well. Nexus, who have been so good at peeling back, this time understand the power positions that they've been given. They want to hold on tight. Surely you hear the footsteps as he comes around the corner, goes for the swing. The drone is leading the charge and spots him out, but still wants to hold his ground. And it's so difficult for Ash to walk forwards, but a well-placed shot to get the kill. Push it to the 2 versus 2. Yokai controlling the long corridor, but for the time being, the round will slow down.
Nowhere to go there, just gotta play your life really. Weirdly, the drone pinching him in creates that extra bit of pressure. They don't know then, from that point, where Entropy can swing from. They can swing at any moment, plus they know that someone else watching them. So, very difficult, just play your life. Very unfortunate not to pick up the kill over onto Affler. Now they'll bring it down to a 2 versus 2, and they do actually have the HP advantage. So could this, Golu, could be this be their attacking round?
Bandit getting scanned out, and it's Ishak who's been so tricky with his movement. So to get the perfect information on him, super valuable, but a very difficult angle to try and take him out on. Affler able to creep into exposition, but doesn't have the diffuser, and the Yokai currently evading aim, eventually does get it down, so that's the tool that disrupted them before for the count. A second one lying in wait, comes forward now, but again, still hunting for frags. Blacklist oversteps his mark, and Ishak takes him down, walking up around the piano, but he's jostling back and forth, and he's so hard to knock down, but hit with the Yokai as well. The disorientating blast, I don't think it was necessary, but it certainly is going to help, and that is a flawless sweep on the defensive half for Nexus. And let's not forget, on Entropy Gaming's map pick, Delta.
On Entropy's map pick. I mean, what more do you say? What more do you say? It's Entropy's map pick. You've got to be doing better than that. And if it's a map you've picked, if we just delve into the psychology of how you pick a map, you pick a map because you think you're good at it. Because, primarily you pick a map that you're good at. Maybe if you're, good at all the maps, maybe then you start looking at maps that your opponent's not so good at. But in the kind of flow chart of how you pick a map, maps you're good at. Where's the indication that Entropy are good at this map? And I'd argue that they're doing a vast disservice to themselves so far this game with how they've conducted themselves. It's very, very unfortunate to see. No one really likes to see a sweep like this when we've been spouting off, Caster's curse and all, about how this is going to be an incredibly competitive game, Golu. And so far, it's a sweep. It's a 6-0 sweep so far. This is map point. It could be 1-0 in a minute. And I feel like Entropy, they'll be very disappointed. Not only that they've lost this sweep, but also that they didn't really get any usage, any utility out of their tactical timeout earlier. Typically, after you call a timeout, you'll win a round. Because you've had a chance to have a little sit down, a little chat, and reset the team, ready to go again. Entropy, I think they probably could have turned their monitors on in that tactical timeout, but there we go. That's just my opinion.
It's always difficult, though, to try and figure out exactly how that balances out, isn't it? Because your opponent also gets a chance to talk things through. So, does it work for you? Does it work against you? It's always one that you have to kind of wait and see what the scoreboard tells. This time, certainly working against them.
You could argue though that it disrupted their momentum because Nexus by that point they were 4 rounds to the good goal, so they were
Yeah.
4 rounds to the good. Disrupts their momentum, but it hasn't. Not a chance. 6-0. Bankers picks up the early frag on a wide roam up on top floor. Rixie, they'll get the refrag, but still not what you want to be seeing. Takes the that kind of intel. Something that they've been lacking on. Takes that intel operator of Takebi off the board super early. Before, I think, in fact, any of her calls had loaded.
Yeah, it takes, what, 45 seconds to come through, so maybe just before you die, but certainly not in time to use it effectively. And you have got this pinch on the Spiral, but again, it's the Scopos that Rixie's picking out here. So can teleport back to what I would assume would be a safe position. As Ryzen wants to get aggressive, now moving behind the main desk counter. Again, it is soft. You can pepper some shots through, but it will eat a lot of the damage coming in off those bullets. Able to get away during that reload period for Ishak. As the drones come back out, again, to try and get that information. There's a minute 20 left on the round. And still top floor presence.
This is a good bit of defense coming out from Entropy that maybe we wouldn't have expected, a minute or two ago, given how the start of the round went. They've brought it down to 3 versus 3. They've still kind of got control of the areas which are important. They're still holding on to that top floor with Rixie on the Scopos, proving a bit of a tough nut to crack up there.
Creeping in, grenade in hand to try and flush them out of this position. Well, that's the shield gone. Still there, but doesn't matter. Ryzen on the flank gets one. Rixie able to trade it out. Pushing to site. The plant now going down, and they've covered off their drop behind them. And that's the plant going to be locked in. Rather able to slip into supply as well. And sit quietly. 40 seconds left on this diffuser. Another Vulcan popped. And maybe it forces movement from this attack, but it hasn't forced them out. Scopo's dropping the hatch and getting aggressive. The super shorty coming out in hand, but caught off with a well-timed swing. One above, one below. Down to a 1 versus 1 as Rixie has so much work cut out for them. Trying to use these Selmas to open up alternate angles in towards the bomb site and sitting quite far away. Again, challenging the Warden to come and hunt them down. Ryzen on very low HP, going to commit to the defuse. Pros don't fake. You're going to stick it through. You've got to challenge him and find the frag. You're going to get there just in the nick of time. Nexus 7-0 sweep on Entropy's map pick to start off our promotion series, Delta Bacon. This was not in the script. We were promised a close banger.
It was tight. Listen, that last round, that was tight. But, nah. You can't be dropping 7-0 on your first map, really, can you? That's first map of a series where you've picked it, Golu. And you know what's on the line. You know exactly what's on the line. This could be your chance to get promoted up to the knockout stage a week early. Have a little week off. Have 2. Treat yourself. Not going to be happening. Not going to be happening this time round, Golu. As this first map in the series, it's so important to establish that kind of momentum. Nexus proved that their momentum can't really be broken when it comes down to that tactical timeout back off the end of round 4 that Entropy called. Can they be stopped? That's the question.
I don't know. If I have to say, I don't think this looks like the rematch we anticipate.
No,
Nexus look
nowhere near.
dialed in. They look so prepared for everything that's happening this map. I haven't seen a play that I look at and go, oh, Entropy have been able to catch them off guard here. Entropy have got the upper hand. Even if they get an opening pick, it looks like it's still somehow part of Nexus's master plan. I don't know how that's possible, but they seem to just react so well around each other. And for Entropy, a team that we've seen have great highs so far this season, they just aren't connecting on the same level that we're used to seeing from them.
Do you know, I was counting there. On attack, you want to be on the front foot, right? And I think, there's mitigations to this. So take what I say with a pinch of salt. But there's mitigations to this. I was counting how long it took for the attacking team of Entropy, that first half, those first 6 rounds, to actually get into the building. On 2 occasions, they managed to get 1 person into the building.
Yeah.
Before the minute mark. Only 1. All the other rounds, so all 4 other rounds, and after that round as well, it took them over a minute to actually get anyone in the building. On 2 rounds, it took them more than a minute and a half, Golu. Now, against a team like Nexus, where it's a bit of a grudge match, it's a bit of a There's going to be a bit of trash talk. There's a bit of emotion involved. Plus, with it being a promotion match, when you're on attack, you need to go and seize the day. Carpe diem. You need to go and play some exciting siege. You need to go out there and stamp your authority on the game in a way that they just didn't. Nexus turned up, and Entropy, unfortunately, for our first map, for Consulate, didn't turn up, Gorlu.
Yeah, it wasn't an ideal showing for them, and it's now Skyscraper that will be the next map played, and that is Nexus map pick. So in theory, this is where Nexus come into their own element, as if it's possible. You just look down the back of a 7-0, but this is Rainbow Six Siege, and if there's one thing that happens in Siege, it's teams, for some magical reason, always win the opponent's map pick. Now, that often isn't a thing to be very happy about. It's not like a big thing to bask in the relief of. But here for Entropy, that's their lifeline. Can they come back on Skyscraper to bring the series to 1-1, to force that bank decider, to extend their length, to push them into the playoffs already? Or are they going to need another best of 3? Well, Skyscraper's up next, but before that, we have a very short break. So make sure you're back, because you do not want to miss what could be a very quick series or potential banger beginning of a comeback. Hello, welcome back. We are one map in to our promotion series. Both these teams 2-1 in the Swiss stage of ESA Cup Season 10 so far. But Nexus Gaming have come out on top so far. They won Entropy's map pick of Consulate 7-0. And Delta Bacon, it wasn't close.
No. No further exposition, no notes. No.
You sometimes see a score and you're like, oh, it was like a 7-0, but like these rounds were kind of close. And they just kind of got no. There were a couple close rounds in there, but for the most part, it was a bit of a blowout. A very strong showing from Nexus Gaming, who came out full force. But now it's map 2, and we're off to Skyscraper, a personal favorite of mine. I love Consulate a lot as well, so for me, this has been quite a treat so far. The one-sidedness aside. But Skyscraper, Nexus77's map pick, Entropy Gaming really need to show up now.
Yeah, I mean, I briefly considered in the interlude, quickly googling and asking what the German is for. Can you guys log on, please? And sending that off to @Entropy Gaming. But I thought better of it, and I thought, you know what? Let's actually just say that on broadcast. Who cares? But yeah, I mean, it applies. They didn't really turn up for that first map. I think that by their own measure, they'd say that, and that's going to make some of our staff team a little unhappy because we do, as you know, have a little bit of a prediction bracket going through the staff team. And let me tell you, a couple of us are not overly happy with Entropy's performance so far, including myself, Golu. You got Goat, you got Nano, all of whom, including Ogon and Ruyan, all of us were like, you know what, Entropy, they've got a lot of time in the competition. They're very experienced. Since season 3, they've never failed to make playoffs. They're a team of enduring quality, but they didn't turn up. Let's hope they turn up for Skyscraper, Golu.
I really hope so, because I want a good close Skyscraper. This is a map that I enjoy a lot, but is quite difficult to do well. Right? It's one of these maps that has a lot of limitations in movement, a lot of choke points. Entropy Gaming, it's their turn to ban the Blackbeard. Last time it was Nexus, but with starting on the defense, obviously you get that first attacker ban, you're not risking the chance that your opponents get to run 6 rounds of Blackbeard. Look, even if you get to do it afterwards, you don't want to play 6 rounds against Blackbeard.
No, not a chance. Not a chance. After especially after the rework, he kind of went up in strength. It was quite interesting that before the shield nerf, there was the thing of let's add a shield. Let's turn Blackbeard into an actual shield. Let's double down, which I respect, and I do quite like Blackbeard as a new iteration. But oh my word, do comp players not like playing him? Ying getting banned out, not overly common as a ban in ESA so far, but I'd expect to see maybe a lot of Warden play unless Entropy make the decision to ban them. I don't think they will. given, of course, that they'd not be playing against it. But then, you've still got all of these different operators to guard against. Ying's just one of them. And I don't know if that's really an operator that I'd be looking to ban so much as play around. Echo getting banned out. Entropy obviously having Echo used against them to great effect by Nexus over the course of 6 defensive rounds last map. That's not too much of a surprise, is it, Golu?
No, it was something that we saw Nexus really use to great effect in disrupting, especially when Entropy got to the end of their timers, right? And I think we can expect them to be getting to the end of that clock again when it comes to their attacks here. Of course, they start on defense, so it isn't something that they'll have to worry about for a little bit of time. They get a temporary reprieve from it, but will certainly become a problem had they left it open. Maestro is still available as well, so that's something that we could see come through for Nexus as a way to interfere or annoy Entropy's attacks. They're going to start off with another annoying piece of utility. It is the Monty coming out. The Blackbeard may be banned away, but there's still 2 other shields, 3 if you count Fuse, but I don't think we're really doing that. We'll leave that to the side. Monty coming in immediately, and on a map that is as tight and has these long corridors next to tight corners and choke points, getting that full shield to advance forwards, you scout out that information, really valuable.
Yeah, especially when you consider the lack of trap operators really on Entropy. They've only got the Frostmats to really worry about, and Frostmats against the Monty, who moves quite slowly forwards with their shields, they're not going to get caught out too often by that. This early engagement shows Nexus, they're starting on the front foot, they're not going to be messing around, immediately applying pressure to that karaoke door, waiting to facilitate this Monty entrance over on the other side.
Yeah, eat out a bit of pressure, engage the defense, give the Monty that space to walk forwards. Bankers still looking through, and again, they've got these headhunts on the extension on the far side of the map, but having this window taken down early, you are now the cut-off player. And as that Monty is going to encourage Vasi to run to safety, you are lying in wait. The breach opening up, able to slip back into lounge, running through terrace, should go down. But hasn't quite crossed the window yet. Wants to get aggressive onto the Monty and throwing a Nitro Cell outside, and might just do that, get a lot of damage, but ultimately traded off by Bankers.
Yeah, very well played there by the Monty, and by the whole team really, but Bangers cutting off the retreat, and there we go, another kill coming out from ESA onto Rise. Now they've established kind of an attacking control over the map, they've claimed the territory that they wanted to claim, now they can start pushing forward with Monty, Shinji leading the charge. Shinji, not a player who really got that much in the way of frags last time round, but they're going to be playing the Monty here. You can see there, they've got the Goyo set up, so they're ready to play time. They're ready to deny this Monty for a significant amount of time. As long as Warden tucks in nice and safe behind that shield and doesn't go chasing after drones, they can pop the Goyo and kill a few seconds of time.
And time is really important now. Monty walking up onto the door frame, still the Vulcan, so that's 20 in the pocket of Entropy Gaming, at least for holding on to drum. They're going to detonate that now. Geisha wall opened up by the attack, so an alternate angle for the Ace to start to walk on through, and has that support still from Bankers as well. But the long angle contested out by the Goyo, wins it, traded off. But important pick to get with Rixie getting aggressive for a second onto the Ace as well. That's the entire side balcony eliminated.
Yeah, good play here as we get into the last 30 seconds. 3 versus 2, and you can see the defense. They're not fully out of control of it just yet. Nexus, they're starting to apply pressure from the Geisha, from all these varying angles. You can see the Monty, they've rotated around as well, up through Geisha, and they're going to start getting the plant down. They'll fake it because they lose a player, but the cross from Chapkin, it counts so very well, but not well enough as the frags come out, and it delves into a multitude of 1v1s. What's the one thing you don't want in a 1v1, Golu? Someone with just a pistol. Entropy take their first round of the game.
Yeah, caught between the two, right? Trying to challenge that Warden. Affla comes in the nick of time to at least confirm the injure in exchange for the Warden's life, and can see the round out in the engagement, despite the fact they're stuck in the corridor.
To locate and defuse as many
Really, really well played by Entropy Gaming to get their first round of the series, Delta Bacon. They've done it. It only took them 8 rounds. It only took them to map number 2. But we can give them a firm round of applause for their achievement in getting 1 here. Now they want to try and turn that into a total of 7 so they can win a map.
It's fine. My prediction's going to come in. Don't you worry about it.
The 2-1 reverse sweep, believe.
I'm convinced. Nothing you can say will change this. I mean, yeah, let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's 1 round, you know, on a map that's, you know, got quite a difficult map to really judge round to round. It's not a map where one team can start just winning and winning and winning. Each site is very different in how it's approached, different in the skill sets that you need to attack it. Case in point, we're not going to see a Monty in this attacking round coming out from Nexus as we go over to the west side of the skyscraper.
Again, want to get on these outside balconies, start applying that pressure in towards the side, but anticipating some aggression down below. Might have even caught the Frost walking forwards on a drone. Patience from Shinji here. Not moving from his mark. To go on Repel, is this going to be enough to bait the engagement from the Frost, but no longer looking down? See, you could get a freebie here, but Shinji's off. Nothing will come from that.
I do wonder if they knew he was there, if there was maybe, as they rotated their character around, maybe they gave a little audio call. It won't matter because Rise, they'll pick up the early kill onto Bankers. And I see here Entropy picking up that first kill on a wider roam than we saw them play at any point on their 1 defensive round over on Consulate. Much wider roam and picking up the kill off the back of it. Are we in for one of those games, Golu, where, as you mentioned, both teams take their opposing team's map?
They'll need to see what can come from the rest of this second round. Clearing off the Keepers. Again, there's a second on Dragon that they would want to get going, but still 2 Keepers, 1 thrown straight back onto that Shrine window, 1 more still in pocket. So continuing to eat away at the utility and, more importantly, the clock here. The attack reforming around this Terrance door.
Feels very tame so far, so it does go. Feels very tame. This attack, not really seeing too much oomph behind it, and that's being added to by Rise's lovely little C4 pick over onto Shinji. So that's going to take us down to a 3v5 Nexus. They've droned, they've got the information they need, now it's just down to an execute. I do wonder what they're waiting for. Maybe they're thinking, let's just get people in position, hit them from multiple places at once. That's going to work out for them. ESA gets a frag back onto Rise, takes them off the board. No C4 to be used, as that's already gone out. And another one there just gets wasted, Golu.
A challenge on the breach, but again, we've seen what happens when you engage shotguns at point-blank range. Bassi comes out on top this time around. Chapkin able to trade one back. Still very winnable round. 24 seconds left on the clock, so they'll have to make a move. The position of the Frost on main stairs given away. Breaks the mirror window to deny that information. Trying to bait out an engagement. Get someone to make a move, but still tossing on the door frame as Rixie just gets aggressive. He's bored of waiting around, and Trixie, left alone with 6 seconds, is just gonna step away. The round's all but over. Why risk your life? But Rixie does not give a damn. He's hunting for more, and he not only gets the first on the Chapkin, he gets the second as well. You get punished for your patience.
I think that's the story of that first map, isn't it? Where the attacking team, they weren't getting into the building until gone a minute and a half. And they were getting punished for their patience. And there again, Nexus taking just a little bit too long as they get into the end game of the round, unable to really find a way to execute, having dropped the players that they have. ESA, as we've seen, hugely proficient killer, picking up frags. Bankers, exactly the same. And it felt like their momentum was very much stymied by the time we hit a minute. Nothing really happened from there until 30 seconds, and at that point, there's no planning, there's no time to think and, strategize around where the enemy players are. You've just got to go and do. Nexus couldn't do.
It really is a flip script. All right, both these teams struggling to put things together on their attack. I mean, Nexus, they got 1 attacking round win over on Consulate. Obviously, that was all they needed to close out the map after a 6-0 start. Here, a lot more pressure on them to start racking up the tally. Don't want to let this go too far. Look, this is a map that we talked about. It can be very defender-sided. We've seen teams go 5-6 rounds on defense regularly. But Shinji, oh, you found the perfect start. You've taken down Afla, a big important player for Entropy Gaming when they get the ball rolling, but also a Nitro Cell, one of two, and you got those Black Eyes deployed. So they become extra potent, as we've already seen them used to great effect by Entropy Gaming in that last round.
Yeah, with the Valk being left on the board, Nexus choosing instead to ban out Ying, which again, I'll suggest not really an impact operator in the era where we've got Warden, you know, where we've got all these options to counter that many Ying charges. Still not convinced that that was the strongest ban they could have chosen, and Valk and Mira both, you know, typically quite powerful bans. Shinji getting picked off by Rixie. Bankers, they'll get the refrag nice and quickly. Nexus coming back a little bit to what we saw from them over in map 1.
Air jab put down to prevent aggression on the doorway while droning for information. This is the best start Nexus have had. You got to not let it go to waste. It's Blacklist with the 612 nonetheless as well, creeping up behind the deployable shield. I've sent drones further in, but I don't know if they expect the positioning so aggressively from the Legion. Clutch drone will spot him out and somehow not catch the drone with that shotgun. Forced to reload. It only has 6 bullets in the magazine. Drops down the staircase and does take out that information tool, slipping slightly further back. The site is still downstairs. There's been a slow middle for Nexus. Gotta be careful with Blacklist now lurking around the corner of the Bravo. Doesn't know that they're already down inside of tables. But shots both ways, neither going to connect. Frostmat hits, should be able to pick himself back up, but gives a slight window opportunity as a long-range impact goes through, a drop down the main staircase as you try to trade onto Ifchak, but he lives on 1 HP. 2 very low members on either side, but it's Vasi popping up in the back line to catch Nexus off guard. 1 still up on the hatch, waiting. Engaged, but has the diffuser, has to rotate towards Black Stairs to try and come down safely and get into sight. 30 seconds is plenty of time for the attack to make a move, especially with Trixie holding this forward position inside of Barbecue. Sneaks on through, wants to go for the plant. It should be in a safe position, covered by the bomb chassis from the long angle, held by the Goyo. Needs to find an angle to take the gunfight to Trixie, but the plant goes down, and they're able to back away. A wonderful shot from Chapkin to take down the first. Vasi, 1 HP, has the dream still very much alive to keep them from their first round win, but Chapkin finds 2 headshots to close out and finally put Nexus on the board at the end of the first quarter.
Very, very well disciplined round there from Nexus. I actually didn't think they were going to do it. They created a lot of vert, didn't really utilize it, as we said there. Vasi was popping off. I think it was a couple of very interesting choices there. I think the 6SD had all the, all the oomph of a potato gun as they were using it there. We have seen it played, very recently in ESA. We've seen it used more than I would think is reasonable. Sometimes it works, but it just doesn't have the oomph behind it that the M80s or anything like that have behind them. It's just not as powerful. It doesn't have that kick to it, that lethality. But there we go. Nexus, they'll pick up a round. Very disciplined performance, early pick over onto Alpha, and despite having the Mira and the Valk available to them, Entropy unable to keep kitchen dining safe in round 3. Round 4 now, and we're going to see a very similar lineup really coming out. Sans Mira, Sans Valk, and adding in instead the Bandit to keep that breach safe.
Another extension that don't want to get caught up on. Vulcan placed on the single breach. Again, you've got the Bandit, you're expecting it to get opened up eventually with EMP or something. You've got EMPs in the pocket of that gridlock. The Chapkin's been putting up some kills on as well, right? Getting good use out of the tracks to limit movement. How do you want to start? Again, clear out this roam. Last time they were able to catch off the Bandit by holding out inside a terrace window. I'd expect them to try and go for something similar again.
Yeah, it's interesting because Bandit, they're not explicitly roaming. Their job is going to be to try and keep that door solid. They're not really going to be looking to hold time or anything like that. But Vasi, they'll be picking up kills anyway. They don't particularly care. They know that they're likely to get pinched. They're easily accessible from above and below. But they've got their teammates backing themselves up over onto the other breach. So they're relatively safe now. And with a minute gone, Nexus still yet to really do much. Except mosey around the outside of the building, Golu.
Yeah, and there was a much quicker start for them last time, but the discipline that we saw from Nexus, this time it's Entropy, embodying it. Falling away, not risking their life, keeping themselves alive, and getting a pick on the Ishak to boot. All really valuable for their start here, half the way through the round, and yes, they've been cleared out of Exhibition and Office, but that doesn't matter when you still got all 5 alive, holding shields and more on Shrine, on Drum, waiting patiently. Gets aggressive, it's Afla to find the first, shuts down this push back, again holding from Shrine, damage into Trixie's leg as well. There's just again all dissuaded them from pushing up the Shrine. Bankers just runs forward into Drum, knowing that the position is cleared after destroying the shield, taking the space by force. Again, no picks found yet, and with 56 seconds, you need to find a kill. Oh, and that's how you do it. You peek up, Warden not ready for you to be there, looking for a second, swinging around onto the restaurant staircase. The Ryzen getting aggressive at just the right time to shut down the Drum push. You're now afraid of losing that space. Banker's on a roll despite his low HP total. Has to be careful of the Goo Mine sat in front of him. And as he takes it out, a swing from the Legion. I think it's Blacklist who takes him down. Impact's flying over, but exposes the Goyo because of it. Hiding on Shrine, the other walking down the long corridor, gets spotted out, and a lovely kill by Trixie, looking for the third, but can go for the res. 16 seconds on the clock. Diffuser in the hands of the ace. Afla waiting patiently. He clutched out before. Can he clutch out again? They want to cross if they can, but damage into the shots of the Froda. Why are you not going with Diffuser? It's the ace that has it. You're not going to get there in time. 0-0-1. You just about put the case on the ground. No footholds to try and disrupt. Judy runs into the corner. Afla, you're this close to getting there. A nearly monumental mishap from Nexus. Juggling the Diffuser. But they get in and they get it down with quite literally no time to spare.
That was about as tight as it could have been. And I think you saw Bankers there. You saw Bankers, after being rezzed, so explicitly not having the case, charging through the breach and then getting into the position to actually plant it. Which I found quite humorous. But then, I think it's quite apparent that Trixie didn't know they had the Diffuser. And if they didn't have the Diffuser, then I argue that round was pretty much over because Alpha, all they'd have had to do is hold back. Don't go anywhere near them. Just live. And that 6th defender would have come in clutch for them, of course, the timer. But there we go. That's not how it happened. They did get the point down. And here we are at 2-all. Nexus, they've scraped it back. They've clawed it back. It's been 2 very, very tight rounds, where they've been playing a lot more towards the objective than to frags, but 2 rounds that they've won. Nonetheless.
Recompose. They got it done. Still, heart beating for Nexus. Oh, and that's not an ideal start, as Trixie already up for the count. You brought an Osa to try and use it as that secondary shield to sneak into top black. Down for the count already.
Yeah, no, you don't want to be dropping players like Osa who have like round-long utility so early, especially not here. In a situation like this, Legion, they're going to get droned out. They'll start relocating, but relocating towards the opposite side of the building. So they're going to be playing on a little bit of an extended roam here. We saw Nexus play these extended roams really well on their defensive rounds, and Entropy, they've had a little bit of success themselves. Obviously, you see the Trixie not involved any longer in the rounds. They'll be on the flank cams. Legion not having as much success as they'd have hoped, going back to the more default option of that lovely little SMG. But Shinji here not actually bothered about bullets as they're just peeking. They're giving out all of the information over on these defenders, and they're already just about in sight. We've still got half the rounds left to go, Golu.
Dropping a smoke again to give Chapkin on that glass the opportunity to look down, but Rixie's on the Warden, and he says, I could do that too, mate. Pops on the goggles, shuts him down. Affler with a wonderful long shot takes away your cover on the disco window. Bankers finally comes up, but Shinji has to get aggressive. And you said it before, when you just have a pistol, you're not favored for the 1 versus 1. The round slipping away from Nexus before they really had a chance to get the ball rolling. Now Diffuser dropped deep inside of sight. You're stuck on 1 HP in quite an uncomfortable position. You're going to walk forwards, maybe take a couple spray shots, but you give your position away, and Bassi might not have had the line of sight, but he can take an educated guess.
Yeah, strong round from Entropy there. I think the Monty plays, the thing is, as you said, on Skyscraper, Monty can be very, very viable. Just because of how many rooms there are, how constricted it can be, and how they can be used to really claim territory in a way that other operators, they can't really do it anywhere near as effectively. But the issue with Monty is when you put them in situations where they are the leading edge, they absolutely have to be backed up by a number of players. Having one player covering an alternate angle means that the Monty is very, very limited in how they move. And I'd argue that Shinji is being pushed a little further along than maybe they're comfortable with in their Monty pushes, because they're pushing, they're expanding out very far. Meanwhile, the rest of the team is kind of just dying around them. And I think that Monty, while it is very viable, maybe isn't the option to go on this karaoke side. Twice they've taken Monty, twice they've failed. They've won karaoke side, and it was one time they didn't bring Monty Golu. So maybe it's time to go up the ghost on that. Not that it will matter too much more, as Nexus, they'll be looking to end their attacking half with a victory and even us up here in round 6.
I think you'd be very happy if you do achieve that 3-3. Even a 4-2, I think, is a great start, considering, well, a great half, considering where we started.
Yeah. I think Entropy, they've bounced back in a way that maybe, given that they already used their tactical timeout back in Math 1, they've bounced back in a way that I think has been quite impressive, really. Given that they didn't have a huge amount of time to catch up in between maps, the mental reset is there, and they're extraordinarily competitive this game compared to last game, where, I think they'd probably tell you themselves, Golu, they're pretty dire, they're pretty awful. They're being very, very competitive here. Playing over on that office side, where they enjoyed a little bit of success. They won by frags here back in round 2 with a wide ground floor roam. Vasily playing some really lovely breach play with the shotty. We'll be seeing a little bit more of that, or will Nexus be able to adapt their strategy? They're not bringing a Monty, they're going back to these fragging operators that we know they're very, very strong on, but it's a bit of a slow round up until now as Rise. They'll pick up Isak. Isak being kept quiet so far over on Skyscraper. 4v5 in favor of Entropy Gaming.
Still this strong setup, right? The Twitch taking down some of these Vulcans certainly helps a little bit, but you're staring down the barrel of 5 Keybers. There's 2 in pocket for his army to throw down, so even if you get rid of these powerful forward-placed ones, they just get replaced. Trying to walk up onto Shrine, but again, they've come to a bit of a standstill. They don't have that Flores that they used last time to make the space for them, relying on the flag grenades coming through. But again, the Keeper placed in a spot where you have this angle staring at your toes, and there's no way to fight it back without drones peeking it, and that's a death sentence.
I don't know about the utility of using up an ace charge, but you can just shoot that out very, very easily from a wider angle. Keep yourself safe. They pick up damage for no reason. Chapkin gets put down in the end as well by Affler. Affler having a really good game so far on defense, picking up 5 kills so far. And that's going to really stymie this Nexus defense. They're kind of stuck here on this kind of, drum hallway halfway point, as it were. They're holding angles, but there's only 30 seconds left. You can't just hold angles. You've got to go and push the advantage. And they're not. Affler picking up a second, a third coming out for Rixie now, as it turns down to a 1v5. It'll be a flawless round. And what a statement of intent from Entropy to stamp their authority on Skyscraper. A 4-2 split goal.
Could be better, could be worse. That goes for both sides, really, I think, in that. 4-2 feels quite fair. Of the performance that we've seen, and for Nexus, they now know their target. They have to try and close this out with 5 defensive rounds. Very doable. Entropy Gaming, they'll be looking for those attacks. And the biggest thing for me is, again, fixing that time inconsistency. Skyscraper can play a lot like Consular if you don't give yourself the time to clear out the defense. You have to invest resources in on this office hold, clearing out from Gation, clearing out T, fighting and vying for Drum and Shrine. If you focus too much on just pushing that main site breach and trying to get aggressive, you can really be caught out.
Yeah, I was disappointed really though to see Nexus get stuck not just once but twice in that hallway in the middle of the map. You know, it's a very clear demarcation of like the west side and the east side of the map, and they got stuck on there a couple of times, which I think, you know, with a minute left, send someone down to rotate, go upstairs. Why not? Send someone to look through trophy window. Why not? I think it's the argument really behind these things, but alas, they didn't. They lost, and they got down 4-2. Nexus were extraordinarily strong goalie, which I think is understatement of the century when it came to their defensive rounds back on console. Extraordinarily strong. Do you think they'll be able to replicate that here?
Dangerous time. Try and figure this out. Again, they are going to go for that full clear, Delta Bacon. They are going to make sure they do this properly and by the book. Again, you want to try and close on Nexus as best you can. Nice little bit of Rotero work. Using that skylight hatch to the drone hole, the ventilation shaft that comes from the roof. But it's been clocked onto and now been taken down, as Army will be watching it a little bit more vigilantly. Able to now open up the single wall into Drum as well. So it's taken them a minute, but they are peeling away at this setup much more efficiently than we saw from Nexus on their attacks.
Yeah, their attacking setup is going very well so far, but this is Azami. I mean, Azami is very powerful. I think in particular on this map, because there's just so many anchor points that her keeper barriers can latch onto. There's so many different spots where you can pop her. It's, you know, it's fascinating to see just the amount of places that these competitive players can actually put their barriers and set up these lovely little sight holes. All starting to kick off as we are at the halfway point of the round. No frags so far though from this Entropy attack. They're sitting back and Trixie punishes them for it.
As the Kiba hole going underneath, the frag grenade bounces down though, and Trixie tries to get aggressive into it. Chapkin able to refrag him out and keep the kill lead. 4 versus 3 in favor of the defense. With a minute left on the clock, still plenty of setup. That mirror window being opened does give a little bit of extra leeway to Entropy Gaming trying to push forwards inside a terrace, because you're not going to have that information relayed against you and fight on symmetrically. Toxic Babe being thrown out to try and disrupt Vassi's entrance. Vassi has the diffuser, but is probably in the least ideal spot. You'd normally want to be pushing through from the other side. For 38 seconds, it's not a whole lot of time to go for a swing around to try and rotate off. And again, another Toxic Babe comes through just to waylay the time. Rixie going to be met up with by Afla as they want to try and double push out onto Shrine. We saw the Mute want to get aggressive, but Shinji being a little bit more careful now. As a Nitro Cell is thrown out, but it goes the wrong way. The trade comes through as Afla gets dropped in exchange for Shinji. Knows there's one more close inside of VIP, wants to get aggressive on the door frame, doesn't quite know where, picks the corner, picks wrong. Banker's just standing in the middle of the room, rotating off just in the nick of time. Otherwise, he'd be gone.
Yeah, I think a bit of a misplay from Afla there as they chose to vault over the over the barricade, over into Dragon, and it gives such a distinct audio cue that you know you're probably going to win a gunfight if you peek that, which obviously they did, and that kind of set off that string of 3 kills right at the end of the game. It felt like they didn't claim any territory off the back of the kills that they made. That Azami kill, where they made it with the frag grenade at about the 1 minute 30 mark. Azami was playing their life there, right? They were playing their life, and they played it very, very well. They didn't pick up a kill, but they picked up a lot of time. They did a little bit of damage. But then once the kill came through, there was no real claiming of territory from Entropy Gaming. They didn't push forward in numbers and like look to push home their advantage, take advantage of the momentum. None of that. They kind of just moseyed forward a little bit. And that's because Nexus had this kind of defense in depth where Azami was holding tight on that Dragon corner, waiting for the swing, challenging her all the way. But once she went down, you still had the mute, you still had these players holding from the objective, looking through that Dragon doorway and making sure that these Entropy players, they couldn't push. There was no oomph to it, which was maybe a bit disappointing to see. And maybe that suggests that Nexus banning out Ying is very much a target ban, where Nexus banning out Ying means that they can't push that advantage.
Again, I think it's the case of they did the first part of the round much quicker than Nexus, but still got stuck in the same place. And
Exactly, yeah.
ultimately, this is what you need to be able to break, though, right? If you want these consistent attacks to come through. Spying out the extension from Nexus, not too dissimilar to their own. They've also brought the Monty. It's Vasi playing it for them to try and walk through. Than that, maybe a little easier and keep some utility, and you walk through, and Trixie has the head holes set right up to immediately put you in the mud. So you lose an opening pick. Not ideal, but Monty now spies out the bandit, tucked in the corner as well. He wants to try and rotate off to escape while they can before the rest of the attack comes through and cuts off the angles. A lovely little setup for Bunkers, though, who has 3 keybers established to give a tiny little pixel.
Yeah, I do wonder as well about the choice to bring a ram on a site where you're notably not going to be doing that much in the way of vertical gameplay. I'd much rather see a book job. If you're going to play vertical.
Yeah.
Play it from below. But there we go.
Nades
bit of a slow round. Not finding anyone, though, Golu. That's the key. Not finding anyone. Clear out a bit of utility, but the keeper barriers, they're just the second part of her loadout. The first part being that whacking fantastic assault rifle. 5v1. All of us, sudden Golu. Just out of nowhere, Shinju and Toxic Nades and this Entropy side being caught completely off guard. All just funneling into a kill hole. Afla, the last one. They're not going to last long. Trixie takes them off the board. A flawless round, Golu, for Nexus as they bring things even.
And Nexus are looking more and more comfortable by the round. That second outing, there was no question if they were ever going to falter, right? They stood at the start with Trixie getting that frag, the head hole set up, looking down in towards office, and everything goes wrong from there if you're Entropy Gaming. Really nice job on the smoke as well, right? They have the Monty walking up Shrine, trying to contest onto them, and you throw a smoke in front of him, force him well back. You land one behind him as well. He's caught between the two, and that's what takes him down. You don't even need a bullet to kill off the Monty. That is ideal use of that utility. Nexus complete the first 2 bomb sites. They are the best 2 bomb sites, so you're expected to be able to put up the results on them. This is going to be the real test, and I think this is going to be our first indication of how Skyscraper ends up swinging. If you can win the tertiary, if you can close out on Kitchen and Barbecue, the pressure suddenly really mounts on Entropy Gaming. You find yourself 5-4 up, you're 2 rounds away from victory, and you get to run back the 2 best bomb sites on the map that you've already won both of. It starts to look a little more scary. Entropy Gaming need to find something big here, and they're going to bring out the Blitz for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely key. Notable that on the tertiary bomb site on attack, Nexus won that round. Nexus took that tertiary bomb site and then went on to take the primary bomb site of Karaoke side away from Entropy. And one of the other things they'll take away from Entropy is Vasi, as they take away that ace early on. All of that breach capability gone. They can still Maverick trick it, but that's going to take a lot of time and effort, and it's going to be very, very obvious to these experienced comp players, Golu.
Afla by himself on the far side of the map, trying to make some headway. They've still got all 4 members focusing on above first, and yes, this is Kitchen and Barbecue, but you want that verticality, and we can see those blue silhouettes. We can see 3 of Nexus defenders up above. They'll have holes looking down into sight, so if you don't pay respect, you're not going to be able to find a comfortable position to put down that defuse case. Reinforced wall, giving that pocket of space for Bunkers to play behind. They found Legion inside a T as well, but so much far. Reinforced walls, castle barricades, all protecting them.
Yeah, that initial kill seems to have taken the wind out of the sails of this Entropy side. They're very nervous, very timid as they go about approaching this site. They will pick up the vert kill. Afla holding that angle down onto Chapkin. Maybe one that they weren't expecting to be held on, but they'll have Rise fall to the ground. They're injured as the res isn't quite attempted just yet. There it is. The res comes through. So we are back to a full 4v4. But time taken up as well. Critical time. They've got the Geisha. Oh, no. You can't be letting that happen. They run in from Geisha. They're picked off by what was apparently an undroned angle.
Oh.
And it all kicks off as the Nexus bring us to a 3v1. Trixie popping Blacklist. It's all down to Afla. We've been here before, Golu, as Afla is the last one. They've got to pick up 3 kills in a row. They don't even have the diffuser. They've just got a frag. They're going to hold a vertical angle down, thinking there's going to be a bizarre roam from down there. They'll actually flash it out there, Golu. They're very, very nervous.
Beeper goes off on the door frame for the second time as he tries to walk on through. He's no longer on the half walls. He's tucked in the corner of red. A goo mine placed on the defuse kick gives the information away. They know where he's standing. They're gonna drop for the hatch into sight. Watch out for the head holes behind you though, mate. And Shinji rocking the deagle gets there just in the nick of time to catch the drop and to catch another round for Nexus. They push themselves onto 5. They keep on rolling.
5-4, they take the tertiary site. Just as you said, Golu, they take the tertiary site. 5-4. Nexus 2 rounds away from promotion. All the way up into the knockout rounds. Entropy, they've played much more of a play of it. But they're really struggling here now to make their mark after, you know, a run of rounds that they did very well. They're now on a run of 3 losses in a row. Nexus taking site after site after site. And as Golu, as you said, they've now got their primary and secondary bomb sites, the 2 more powerful ones in the game, to try and hold out, stick it for the win.
This is hard to call at this point, right? We're seeing a return of a very similar lineup for Entropy Gaming. They're bringing back the Monty. They figured this is their recipe for success. Rixie also bringing back on this striker. I think it is an undervalued tool, right? I think it is undervalued. You get frag grenades and stun grenades and an M4, very, very proficient, opening up the single wall immediately. Remember, this isn't an extension from T and Karaoke. That's in the VIP right next to the bomb site. So really valuable to get that opened up swiftly with the use of those. They didn't even need EMPs, in fact. There was just no mute jammer on it. Ripping open the floor. Looking for Vert. Nothing found just yet, but Breach has now been opened, Delta.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a very slow attacking prep, but there we go. The breach is there now, getting opened. Notably, no real attempt to stop it from opening up, but Bankers, they're going to pick up 1. Chapkin, they'll pick up a 2nd over onto Afla. 2 big kills coming out. Vasi now staring at this very heavily prepared defensive arrangement. One would argue that maybe Nexus, they didn't really want to defend that breach too hard because they've got a plan to counter enemies coming through the breach.
Shinji creeping up onto the table, Nitro Cell ready to go. They could go for a run out as well. It's always an option as Ryzen goes down to Trixie, trying to flank, but with 5 still alive, they're very easily able to watch out. Blacklist catches the overstepping mute as he walks out in front of the window from Exhibition. How do you walk forwards now? A 2 versus 4. Monty's one of your members. You have to try and bait them in. The keeper place to deny the walk-in through VIP. It's being watched vigilantly by Ishak, and he'll get the kill onto 1. The last is the Monty, hunted down, but Bankers swings in aggressively with the SMG-11. Zero fear when it's all down to the shield operator. 1 more round, Delta Bacon. 1 more round is what they'll be saying in the voice comms as Nexus77 push themselves not just onto map point on Skyscraper, but the series point, the promotion point. They are 1 round away from securing playoffs right here, right now.
And bragging rights as well, Golu. Don't forget, these two teams, they've got a history together, not only in this league, but across every league that they're playing together. Nexus beating Entropy in a very tight, very hard-fought 2-1 victory over in RSX League last week. And this, it's looking like it's going to be a sweep, a 7-0 and a 7-4. 3 minutes stand between Nexus and those bragging rights. Who knows?
It's looking dire. I have to say it, it's looking dire. If there was ever a time to step up to the plate, it would be now. But last time, they were in a similar position, Delta. They took a timeout. It didn't work for them, but they gave themselves that extra 45 seconds to concoct a plan to bring themselves back into a map. They haven't done that here. They haven't tried to delay their death song. They want to just get into round number 11. No matter what it means. Starting on a full sweep, they're going up onto the balcony outside Exhibition office. They want to go for the full clear, but again, this is where so much time has been taken away from them.
Nexus playing it safe, no spawn peaks this time. Entropy will have all 5 of their members actually make it to the building this time, but they're playing a very wide roam. They're not going to let Entropy seize any territory on this map without paying for it in bullets and blood. Nexus, they're going to play very cautiously, a little conservatively. Like I say, no spawn peaks, none of these wide roams that are very, very aggressive. They're just going to play to their skill set. ESAC being found wanting on that fact as Rise takes them off the board. 5v4 in favour of Entropy as they fight to try and survive in this series, Golu.
Pushing forwards into Terrace, but again, still this threat from Shrine. Still Trixie on that Frost. Popping shots through. The rest of the defense very happy to sit back and wait for their turn as the Frost continues the demolition of Entropy. They bring it back to 4-4. Renade going over the top. That will get rid of the shield, but you just fall back 1 line more. Still set strong. Minute 30. Still remains plenty of time for Entropy to pull it off, but I want to see them go for some side pressure now.
Yeah, you're not going to get around Bankers, are you? Bankers there with the keeper barriers. 2 in the pocket. They've just used another one to shut up their defenses, holding a very nice pixel angle, one-way angle arguably, over onto Entropy's attack there. They need to really rotate, or they need to start like spraying bullets over towards them to clear those barriers out as they use their last one. Here's that side pressure you were on about though, Golu, and this is very last chance saloon for Entropy.
Flashbangs flying through, trying to give that cover as he pops up on the head hides, but the shots don't quite land. Bunkers drops down, now coming towards Restaurant Staircase to get back to reinforce the team before the final collapse. Spots the legs, but he doesn't look up! He's so focused on getting to the staircase, he misses the freebie, just lingering. Still waiting on the clock as Trixin's gonna go down, but they trade it out with Shinji. 1 more walking up onto red doorway. Appler trying to get aggressive. They know he's pinned in the corner, and they finally able to push forwards and frag him out. Bunkers has to come to lend support to Chapkin, and 2 versus 3. He's 1 HP, but flanking up Black at the perfect time. Up in the corner, safe from the Azami, safe from the Fenrir. The cover from Affler just behind as they walk up to the door frame. They're not pushing together. They can't quite wrap around, and the feet are going to be given away, but Vasi comes off the case just in time to die to the Azami, pushing for that 14th frag. Affler with a 1 versus 2. He's won before, but now he needs to keep the series alive. The reinforcement doing its job. The Azami comes off, whips out the Deagle. Tactical crouch to confirm and lock in victory. Fantastic work to close it out. A 7-4 victory, a 2 closeout to put themselves into playoffs.
More competitive there on Skyscraper, but would you argue it's a competitive game? I don't think I would, to be honest with you, Golu. That was 14 rounds, place 4 in terms of how many rounds these teams took. 14 plays 4. That's a difficult one to reconcile, really, in my book. as being anywhere near competitive enough for ESA. Nowhere near competitive enough from Entropy to try and earn a promotion match. And I think there's going to have to be a little bit of soul searching in their future as they pick themselves up following this loss. Congratulations to Nexus as they play an absolute stormer to send themselves through to our knockout stage. Nexus77, have a week off. You've earned it.
Yeah, it's been a really good showing from them, right? And they do get that time chill before their next game, before they have to think about the playoffs. But Entropy got another little bit of work to do. They are our first team set down into the 2-2 bracket, so they have more time off than the rest of their field. They will get to watch and wait in the next round. But it's going to be a tough match no matter what way you crack it, right? We're down to some very capable teams as our remainers. And you look at Aspire potentially coming through, Molotov Gang. These aren't matchups that I'd be looking forward to from the bottom half.
No, absolutely not. Even Crown Zero, who historically I think have been a very strong team. Aspire, MVG, historically very strong teams. MVG actually being our reigning champions from season 9. But it just goes to show you, Golu, that any team can start well, but it's all about how you end. It's how you end well. That's the key. MVG, they didn't even get through the qualifiers. Last season, they were given a last chance into the competition by a dropout. They went on to win the whole thing. So, it's not about your beginnings in this competition. It's not even about the middle. It's about how you end. So, unfortunately, Entropy they fall down today, but it's Swiss. They have a chance to pick themselves back up. But next week, next time they play, that will be their last chance to Loon Golu. And if they don't succeed there, that's their competition, and they'll be breaking a 7-season streak of getting through to the knockouts.
Difficult run. But like you mentioned, they're a very capable team. And I think it's so important how you find your footing, right? You can just get a good run at the right time. You look even at the highest tier, right? You could argue Beast Coast winning Manchester, finding form at the right time. Same could be true here. There's nothing stopping Entropy from, like you mentioned, doing a miracle, right? They've had a good start. I would expect them to be in a little more fighting form when it comes to their game next week. But of course, we'll just have to wait and see. Why bother speculating when we can just find out in due course? It's been a lovely evening, and thank you for joining us for the first promotion game coming up. We have another game tomorrow for you. LDL Valor against No Offense. Another promotion series. We'll get to find out one more of these teams. Which is joining us in the playoffs? Well, tune back in at 19:30 CEST to find out. It's been a wonderful evening. It's been lovely to be here with you, Delta Bacon. I feel like this has been a nice little trip down memory lane with a reunion. But
Yeah, it's been lovely. Well, it's been all right. It's been all right.
we could have had a closer map one, right? Could have had a closer
Could have had
map
a closer map one. Could have not been a complete sweep, but yeah, I'll go ahead and tentatively say that's Entropy's fault, not your own. But no, I mean it's the league's up for grabs. It's still very much up for grabs. It's just down to which of these teams is going to go and claim it for themselves, isn't it, Golu? As is always the case in Siege.
Yeah, it absolutely is, right? Anyone's game. So you want to be here to see how the rest of this Swiss stage pans out and what our playoffs race is going to look like. I've been Colin Molu. I've been joined by Delta Bacon. We've had a lovely evening. Hope you have had too. Enjoy the rest of yours, because I'll be going to grab some food and chill out for mine. Take care. We'll see you all tomorrow for the next game in our playoffs contention race.